Welcome to the Right to Reason podcast. I am your host, Robert Stanley. I'm speaking with Jimmy Wood from Radcap Radio. Today is going to be the hardest discussion of my podcasting career. It's raw, it's ugly, and you're going to have to prepare yourself. This is going to make you angry. But you know what? We don't fear bad ideas. We fight them with reason. We don't fear bad speech. We fight it with better speech. We don't fear hate. We fight it with love. There is a cancer growing in our country. Everyone sees it. Even today's guest sees it. It needs to be brought out into the light and shown for what it really is. We're staring into the abyss today. So keep your chin up and smile back at it.
Color, 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 color. I am a nightmare walking, psychopath talking. King of my jungle, just a gangster stalking, living life like a firecracker, quick as my fuse. Vendettas of death, that's the colors I choose. Red or blue, cause of blood, it just don't matter. Sucker died for your life when my shotgun scatters. Color. The gangs of LA will never die. Just multiply color.
President Trump finally condemned hate groups by name, the KKK, neo-Nazis, and other racist organizations, 48 hours after the attack in Charlottesville.
We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. It has no place in America.
As it turns out, though, his initial response was important too, because it gave fuel to hate groups.
We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides. On many sides.
Failing to specify which groups he was talking about and adding many sides to his condemnation actually sent a signal to the most vile of hate groups. Here's why words matter. This is how one of the most vile, racist, neo-Nazi leaders interpreted President Trump's comments. Here's what he said to his readers. Trump's comments were good. He didn't attack us. He just said the nation should come together. Nothing specific against us. When asked to condemn, he just walked out of the room. Really, really good. God bless him. Now, England is not the only one who is racist and speaking up for Trump. David Duke, the former head of the KKK, also spoke up, trying to align himself with Donald Trump again.
We are determined to take our country back. We're going to fulfill the promises of Donald Trump. That's what we believed in. That's why we voted for Donald Trump, because he said he's going to take our country back.
In the past, President Trump has disavowed David Duke and what he stands for. But the president's vague initial comments actually gave fuel to the white supremacy fires, if you will. Their movement took it this way. Hail victory. And to everyone, know this, we are now at war and we are not going to back down. There will be more events soon.
It's the Right to Reason podcast.
This episode of the Right to Reason podcast is brought to you by our patrons and contributors like me. We have all recognized the value of the unrestrained marketplace of ideas and have decided to make a difference. You can make a difference too. Contribute at patreon.com/right and learn more about your right to reason at therighttoreason.com. Your activism is appreciated.
Generals gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses. Evil minds that plot destruction, sorcerer of death's construction. In the fields of bodies burning, as the war machine keeps turning. Death and hatred to mankind, poisoning their brainwashed minds. Oh, Lord, yeah.
All right, people, here we are. This is the day. In 1 hour, you are going to take an exam administered by the state to test your basic skills and the quality of education at Eastside High. And I want to tell you what the people out there are saying about you and what they think about your chances. They say you are inferior. are just a bunch of niggers and spicks and poor white trash. Education is wasted on you. You cannot learn. You're lost. I mean, all of you. I want all the white students to stand up. All my white students, stand up right now. Stand up. Come on. All my white students, stand up. Stand up. That's it. Come on, stand up. These are my white children, and they're the same as all of you. They've got no place to go. If they had, they would have abandoned us a long time ago like everybody else did, but they couldn't. So here they are at Eastside High, just like the rest of us. You can sit down. Are you getting my point, people? Yeah. Is it beginning to sink in? Yeah. We sink, we swim, we rise, we fall, we meet our fate together. Now, it took the help of a good friend to make me know and understand that. And I do understand it, and I'm grateful. I'm eternally grateful. And now I've got a message for those people out there who've abandoned you and written you off. Can you hear me? Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. Good. You are not inferior. Your grades may be, your school may have been, but you can turn that around and make liars out of those bastards in exactly 1 hour. You take on a test and pass it and win.
I'm at the highest peak, still glad to meet is understanding me. Artillery, thoughts are killing me, it's just a fantasy. The man in me is ready for war, like Holyfield, Tyson 4. A gang of ghetto niggas on the shore, either or. Your whole family is on the floor, windows breaking all around them. You can't climb this mountain, I'm at the fountain. With my troops, I start screaming at them like, hey, we got that you flukes.
Last time you were on the show, we were talking about libertarianism versus socialism. I was defending the socialist side, you were defending the libertarian side, and that was like a year ago or something. And I clicked back on your show recently. I heard some stuff that sounds pretty damn fascist, man. It sounds like you've kind of, since that last time, you've been super radicalized into like some kind of a alt-right thing. If that's all right to paint you with that brush, I'm going to play just a quick snippet of your intro and get your take on it, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Oh, this is so good. I made this straight custom, like OC right here.
When we form our own platforms to get out of the Jewish echo chamber, our domains are seized. We are cut off from the financial system. We are framed for crimes, smeared in the media, and frivolously sued in civil court. Every peaceful method we have of expressing our opinions and living our lives as we see fit is taken from us by force and deception. And after we go through that for about 50 years, yeah, I imagine people get pretty fucking pissed off, don't we?
All right, and then you go on to start reading some Hitler and quoting from that. Let me see if I can get a snippet from that.
Hundreds of thousands would be led to assemble amidst calamity and passion. Others cannot understand that this is not an order of the state. They are deceiving themselves.
All right, so that continues on between you and your buddies reading from Hitler, and I was a little surprised, man, because that's not the same guy that I talked to last time, and I'm wondering what happened.
Well, I do want to also iterate that this show that you were playing from is a show that we call, it's a series that we do that's a history in review, and we were reviewing Hitler's speeches, and we were talking about them in the way we think that they actually were being, meant whenever he was saying them. Not the way that it's been twisted into, which, I mean, if you can't tell, it's been twisted all to hell. I mean, there's new kind of what quote unquote research coming out all the time. Like recently, like The Independent, I believe it was, put out an article saying that the Holocaust actually killed 20 million, and it's like that's a hard number to try to pull off. Like, I mean, and they included like all kinds of. Well, they really don't show any math. If you actually go to this study and try to find the math to this study, they don't really provide any math. But there's new studies like that coming out all the time. I mean, Liberty Hangout, even, I don't know if they saw this from the study or something, but they posted today that Hitler killed 80 million people, which is Mao's death count and not Hitler's. Hitler's was like 40, Stalin's was like 60, Mao's was like 80. And it's just kind of like this ever increasingly greater demonization, I guess you could say, of a man who might not quite be what our teachers told us he was, if you get what I'm saying.
I thought it was 6 million.
Yes. Well, that's the big time major consensus for the last long time. Well, actually, even like Auschwitz originally the total number was 6 million, and Auschwitz there's actual like. It's written in stone at Auschwitz that it was 4 million.
17 million overall, but that's if you don't count just the Jews, but also Slavs and Soviets, Jehovah's Witness, gays, political opponents. They say it's actually came up to 17 million. But I mean, it's 6 million Jews, though. Do you reject that?
Yeah, there wasn't that many Jews in.
Would that make you a Holocaust denier by definition?
Well, I mean, I suppose you can call me whatever you want, really.
Well,
but if you look at
the term that you would accept.
Well, it's fine, I guess, if you want to call me that. It isn't going to hurt my feelings or anything. But there's things about the Holocaust that don't add up, okay? They were provided with amenities that don't make any sense to why they would have them in a death camp. Like, they had brothels, they had swimming pools, they had orchestras, they had fencing teams and soccer teams. It doesn't make sense as to why if the Nazis really hated them as much as your teachers and the media and everyone that's basically ever told you anything about Hitler, if they hated the Jews that much, they would have not had any of those amenities, and Frank would have never made it to a second death camp and died in a hospital and not a gas chamber.
They have historical record here. We took pictures for this very purpose so that people couldn't deny this, and the photos clearly show.
The photos are of starving people and obviously in a end of war situation where a nation's supply lines had been cut off completely, and a typhus epidemic was going on basically all over Europe, and it was killing. A lot of Jews died. I'm not denying that, and even many of them were lined up and shot and executed straight up. I'm not going to deny that either. That's not what I'm doing. It's just the official story is extremely over-exaggerated.
Lining people up based on their ethnicity and then shooting them, you would agree that's completely abhorrent and immoral, right?
It's hard to say in the situation, because if you take into account all the things that Jews had been doing to the Germans, it's hard to not go at some kind of drastic measure to get it to stop.
This is America. Don't catch you slipping now. Don't catch you slipping now. Look what I'm whipping now. This is America. Don't catch you slipping now. Don't catch you slipping now. Look what I'm whipping now. Look how I'm geeking now.
Like, they were like increasingly creating in the 1920s and 30s, early 30s, homo films and transgender films, and this is in the 1920s and 30s. And this was not, as Hitler said, I'm quoting Hitler right here, this is not of the German spirit.
So
it also literally wasn't.
Not just opposed to Jews, you're opposed to homosexuality and transgender people.
I don't think it's healthy for society to have masses of effeminate men who cannot defend society. It's not healthy. It's not natural.
Defend society. That sounds a lot like your intro into your show, where I got a very strong fascism feel. Would you accept the term of being a fascist yourself?
Yeah, but there's more nuance to it. There's Mussolini's fascism, and then there's what must be done fascism. Like the kind of fascism that you show a bully who's been bullying you for 100 years.
Well, that sounds like self-defense, not fascism. Are you saying that they are synonymous?
The bully is going to always run and tell his friends that it was fascism, regardless of if it was justified or not. Does that make any sense?
You're saying that whenever those in power are using their power on someone else and then they defend themselves and fight back, that the person that is then taken out of power is going to claim fascism.
Well, they don't like in the context of World War II, they weren't taken out of power yet. I mean, it was an ongoing war.
Well, I was just trying to follow your analogy, at least.
Well, yeah. I mean, well, it wouldn't be in a situation where the war was won. It's in a situation where the war is fought valiantly, just like World War II. It was close to a victory in a way. They got close, but if they wouldn't have been able to get America into the war, then it would have been a lot closer. But, I mean, there's also all kinds of other factors. They would have had to been more strategically efficient in their decision-making on the military front, obviously, if you have looked into any of their military blunders.
Are you a racist?
I am not going to deny that my ancestors created great civilizations relative to the other races. I'm not going to deny that just because of I might get called racist. It's a fact, and it's wrong to deny them of the accomplishments that they made.
Sure. The accomplishments of Western civilization and your Anglo-Saxon roots, that's fine, but
yes.
Would you say that you think that one person based on the melanin in their skin has more value than another?
No, I just don't think they're equal. I'm not saying that they have greater value or lesser value. They're just naturally,
if it's not
by the
equal,
grace of God, not equal.
Right, but if it's not equal, then you're already accepting that there's a value system. So you're saying that one is different.
Well, not as an overall, like there's different aspects to each race that you could say are better than others.
What's the best race?
Well, it's a close competition between white people, Europeans, Asians, and Jews right now, and we're seeing who's going to win. We're living it.
Let's say those three in one category of the best. Why wouldn't black people, for instance, be included in that list of best?
Because sub-Saharan black people never even, before colonization, before European influence, didn't even create a seaworthy boat. And it's not that I don't hate these people. It's just a fact of life. It's just a fact of history. They didn't create anything of vast complexity, or even actually a 2-story building, which, I mean, it's no hate towards them. It's just what happened in history. I don't know why exactly it played out like that. It's just how it played out.
But you're saying that it played out a certain way based on race, is what I'm hearing. You're not just saying,
there's aspects that affect it, yeah. I mean, like, obviously, any IQ test you go and look at that are comparing races, there's different variations between the average scores. I mean, it's hard to not find that.
You would have to also say that these IQ tests have been debunked. I mean, the latest one, perhaps, that Sam Harris...
I don't think the Charles Murray bell curve has ever been debunked.
Right. That was the one I was going to, was the Murray one. And Sam Harris has had him on his show a couple times and talked about it and faced a lot of pushback for even discussing the topic itself. But that's a recent one. And all others previous to it have been debunked.
Well, there's really old studies. Like, if you look up IQ tests for Jews, there's old studies into the early 1900s that are saying that they have 108, 115, even probably some you can find saying 120. And it's going back that far. I mean,
let me ask you this. If we're going to go with the Murray test, that showed, based on his test, whether or not it's valid, we're ignoring that, but just based on the stats that he provided, Asians are more intelligent than white people. Would you accept that conclusion?
Yes, I would. I agree with that. I'm not a denier of facts by any means.
So then you would not be able to claim white supremacy in that case. Would that be fair?
In that category, sure, but that isn't combining an ingenuity. That isn't combining like the European Faustian spirit. That isn't including any of that into the equation.
Okay, so would you say that whites are superior whenever you take everything together? We lump all the categories, see what things are best. I mean, maybe having the ability to run doesn't have the same value as the ability to lead people. If we compare, the ability to fight might have higher value than the ability to read, depending on what time in history you grew up in.
Absolutely.
But would you say at this current time in history and the socioeconomic systems that we all collectively seem to be participating, primarily a capitalist world, there are exceptions to that, but everybody's kind of working within the market. 2018, would you say that white people are superior?
And I don't think I would. Right now it's a close race, but like right now I want to say that like the Jews are winning right now. There's no other way around it. I mean, Jews are winning in this race. I'd say Asians and whites are either tied for second, or whites are just barely in front of Asians, but just barely. I mean, they have a lot of people. They have a lot of probably secrets up their sleeves that we don't know about, but that's kind of how I see it. It's kind of like that real close race right there, 1, 2, 3.
You think they're sneaky people from a genetic basis?
Historically, if you look at it, all the advisors to the Treaty of Versailles, or to the leaders, or the authors of the Treaty of Versailles, their advisors, Woodrow Wilson, the president of France, president of Britain, they were Jews. And, I mean, they crushed Germany. That was a big reason why they had this revolt and this hatred against Jews, along with the Jews' cultural degradation of Germany and German culture and art. Like, they were making disgusting, and I mean, they were basically making modern art, you know, that crap where they just throw paint all over some shit, and then they think it's some magic fucking, you know, happening.
Yeah.
But that's
like
what they were destroying the way of life of the Germans, and that's kind of what led to what happened. And I don't think and also what needs to be mentioned about the Nazis is that they tried to just deport them and not do anything extermination wise. They tried with the transfer agreement to try to get them to go to Israel. They made an agreement with Zionist leaders, and that didn't follow through. They made an attempt it was a Madagascar plan to deport them to Madagascar. But I mean, let me ask you a question. If a mass of people, if the people want a group deported because they're destroying their nation and their culture, is that a bad thing? Should they be stopped from doing that by the rest of the world?
Relocation of people based on ethnicity is unethical, yes. To say that one group of people is destroying a society, I think, fails to look at the socioeconomic reasons that group of people are being criminal in nature, if I'm going to go ahead and accept your claim that.
But that can be explained too. I mean, the way that Jews got their prominent positions is because in early days of money, Christians thought that usury was 0.0001% interest, and so they allowed the Semites to do the banking, and that allowed them to, over long periods of time, gather masses of wealth and start these empires of central banking that they have now and have had for a good little bit.
But that's just us using racism to segregate a form of market to one group of people. And then this group of people seem to have some dominance within the banking system today, now that capitalism, I mean, this is back in, 1600s, right? So we're talking about, this is very early on in the capitalist change that started to occur. After this, you've got the Black Plague. And everybody's forced out of agrarianism and forced away from the farms, going into the city. There's no way for the lords to get all the money that they used to get anymore, so they start having to find a way to collect funds without people just using the crops that they pull out of the ground to do it. So they introduce taxation, and from taxation dawns capitalism. Actually, capitalism was caused by taxation, which I think you might disagree with from your libertarian roots. But regardless of that, we might not agree on taxation, but we would have to at least agree that racism caused, or at least religion based on race, caused the Jews to be in a certain socioeconomic class. And now you're saying, well, the Jews are the problem, but we caused the problem if we're going to call ourselves...
Well, I mean, they could have been successful
Europeans.
and not endeavored into the affairs of other nations.
I mean, that's the same thing as saying, like, black people are a major problem in America, and it's like, we're the ones that brought them over from Africa. You know, like,
actually, that's not quite true. The ships that brought over the slaves were owned by Jews.
Oh my God!
In the North American slave trade,
Jews are responsible.
You can find they have these
African
records. They have the
trade?
records of the numbers of the amount of money they made. They have all this. The names of the people who own the ships. You can look that up.
You accuse Jews of the African slave trade.
About a good portion of it, and Jews owned quite a bit on percentage-wise, not total, like net. They had more slaves in the U.S. than white people did on average.
This feels like conspiracy theory stuff to me. I've talked to a lot of, creationists, even a flat earther, 9/11 guys. Just since last time we spoke, I've had a lot of different variety of people on the show, and they've all been great conversations. But when I hear conspiracy talk, I recognize it now. You know what I mean? Like I've gotten used to hearing, and that's kind of what this sounds like. Like at every angle, you seem to be saying, aha, but the original problem that I was referencing is actually the cause of this. Kind of like an Illuminati kind of feel. Maybe I'm getting off track. Let me ask you this. 9/11. Do you think that was like kind of an inside job, or do you think it happened the way that the media portrays it?
Yeah. Well, how else was Israel going to acquire Greater Israel, which is, if you've ever looked at their flag, it's two blue lines between a star, with a star in the middle. And those two lines represent the Tigris and Euphrates River, which is where they believe that the land of Israel,
Fertile Crescent,
is meant to be. It's
so the Jews were
they
behind
needed
9/11.
the U.S. over there to fight this battle for them, so that they could acquire this territory, and it's an ongoing battle even into today.
You would say the Jews knocked down the Twin Towers?
They had a large part in it. Yeah, I mean, Silverstein owned the Twin Towers and got a massive insurance cut on it. Insurance that he got right before the towers came down. I mean, that's factual too. You can look that up. I mean, I ain't trying to lie to nobody.
And as far as Holocaust denier, you say it's okay to paint you with that brush. You have some caveats to it, but you're okay with that. So we got 9/11, we got Holocaust denier. How about like Sandy Hook Vegas shooting stuff? Where do you fall on that? Do you think that happened?
It's just weird. I don't. Oh, I think the Vegas shooting thing was like a gun deal go. It could have been a gun deal go wrong or something. I don't know. It was both of those events were very, very strange. But I don't.
You think it's like a government thing to get your guns or something?
Well, I mean, any chance, and maybe not like intentionally, but that event was undoubtedly used to demonize gun owners and guns. I don't think that's deniable, really.
Do a fourth category. How about evolution? Do you accept evolution in the sense that Homo sapiens evolved out of Africa? That we're all brothers, and when I say brothers, I mean brothers. You know, like we all came from Africa.
We have a common ancestor, sure, but like it's so far detached between some of the races, like Africans and Europeans, that I mean, we're obviously different. There ain't no reason to deny it. It ain't like the worst thing in the world.
This is a social construct that's caused to be different. Like if I want to fuck someone,
it's not a social construct though. They literally have different bone structure. Between Africans and Europeans, obviously, they have different bone structure. They have different testosterone levels. They have different brain sizes, bone shape. It's not we're not the same kind of people.
It's not just melanin, right? But you accept that this is caused by society. That's whenever people say this is just a social issue.
The only way you can say that is if you deny evolution, because these people evolved in different places over different times, creating different abilities with different attributes in those places.
You would admit we all started black. Can you at least give me that much? Like your ancestors were black.
I'm not sure on that one. I mean, they came from the same kind of like Neanderthal, but the Neanderthals moved around, and once they evolved into humans, they were in different places and evolved in different ways.
Neanderthals. We had sex with some Neanderthals, but we didn't come from them. But either way,
or Australopithecus, or whatever the last one was.
You don't have a problem saying that evolution is accurate whenever it says that we evolved from Africa and all races used to be black.
Well, the origins are still being discovered. But I agree with evolution. I'd agree that dogs evolved differently than wolves, or evolved from wolves, and then the species of dogs changed too from their environments.
See, here's my thing. I think, and correct me if I'm mischaracterizing you, but we're talking about whether or not everybody evolved from Africa and was black, whether or not 9/11 was caused by the Jews, whether or not the Holocaust numbers are accurate. Whether or not the Jews were enjoying nice kind of like beachside resorts and swimming pools instead of the photos that we saw. Sandy.
Well, I'm not trying to paint like that, and I'm just pointing out that they had these things. They had these things way before there was any kind of extermination going on, if there was any kind of extermination going on. Because if you don't know, there literally is no document out there that proves that they had some kind of plan to exterminate them intentionally. Like, it doesn't exist. That's never been found.
I've got audio recording of Hitler saying just that. that his intention is to completely eliminate Jews. Let me read that for you real quick. You tell me the kind of feel you get from this guy, all right? These Jews used to laugh about it. They thought it was a joke. They are not laughing anymore. Today they realize the gravity of the situation. It was a struggle especially against the people who seem to have omnipotent power in our country, the struggle against Judaism. He who is born here today knows what that meant, and that it will not remain so in the future. A satanic power had taken over our whole country, who had been able to grip key positions of our intellectual and spiritual life, but also of the political and economic life. From these key positions...
Okay, but can you point out the lie, though?
That Jews are satanic? Or
no, like the other stuff. Well, the Bible says they're the what does it say? The synagogue of Satan?
Bible
That's in the Bible.
Doesn't it say to love your neighbor? Do unto others as you'd have them do to you? Sermon on the Mount.
Well, I'm not Christian. I'm just saying that it says that in there. I'm not saying that you should abide by everything, like abide by the Bible like it's eternal law, but it says that in the Bible. I mean, all kinds of people talked about the mischievous and dubious behavior of Jews, like Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, but Martin Luther penned the 10 Questions on the church door. Henry Ford, even. I mean, there's a bunch of people who have taken on this, even a bunch of Jews too, that have taken on this endeavor to question and point out the hegemony that Jews have over the world.
I'll finish here with Hitler. From these key positions, they were able to control and monitor the whole nation. This power had the same time and influence to persecute with the law those who fight against them and who were willing to sacrifice and oppose resistance to the advance of that power. The almighty Judaism then declared war on us. And you know that I have always defended the view that there are no stupider people than the Jews. Neither is there a more unprincipled and unscrupulous. I have always held view and goal that one day will come when we could finally remove these people from our ranks. It is clear to us that this war can only end with destruction of the Germanic peoples or the disappearance of Jewry from Europe. The result of this war will be the destruction of Jewry. For the first time, others will not bleed alone. For the first time, the genuine old Jewish law will be applied, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth.
That's a great speech. And what he's saying, Jewry isn't all Jews. It isn't like he's trying to exterminate all Jews. Jewry is a behavior. It is an act. It is the tentacles that they have wrapped around your nation. That is what it's a slang term. It's not just saying Jews. If he was saying we want to exterminate the Jews, he would have said we want to exterminate Juden. They need to die. He would have said something as radical as he wanted to because he was Hitler and no one was going to stop him.
Let me compare this speech that you just heard me reiterate with another speech, and then I want to get your take on your feel for this.
All right.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
So,
well, if you wanted to judge people by their character, then you would have had to have a very bad opinion of Jews at the time of 1920s and 30s Germany and 40s.
Let me ask you this, just in comparison of these two speeches. I'm a parent. You're a new parent. You got a kid on the way. Congratulations.
Thank you. Just found out today it's going to be a white male.
I
Sorry.
I knew today was your gender reveal party, and I was wanting to say congratulations. I was going to ask you what the gender was. You had to throw in white male, and it kind of stepped on
sorry.
Let me ask you this, okay? Out of these two men, out of at least these two messages that you just heard, which one sounds like the way that you would want to raise a child in this world? I mean, one was vitriolic, one was hateful, one was angry. One was saying, let's work toward unity. Let's follow our dreams of all of us living equally. To me,
this is the difference. Hitler had the unity already. He had the unity, and what he was doing was trying to save his nation. I mean, have you looked into the Weimar Republic at all and how crushed the people of Germany were by the debts and the craziness of the Treaty of Versailles? I mean, they were literally had their guns taken, and they knew. I mean, they knew that Jews had a large part in it. I mean, another person to add to the list of people who really criticized the Jews and were aware that we fought the wrong enemy in World War II was General Patton. I mean, is General Patton just some crazy fascist too? If he in his letters back to family realized that what was going on in Europe was Jewry, he literally said that this is Jewish. Like, he said those words. You can look that up.
I don't have any problem with calling historical people racist, if that's your question. I mean,
well, no,
I certainly don't defend anyone.
Doing that just avoids the point and the fact that he's talking about exactly what he sees and not just saying that because he hates them. I mean, he literally liberated them. So I don't know how you can go from he liberated them to he's just racist. He's not saying that because he hates them. He's saying that because of what he's seen. Just look up what he wrote about them. You'll be surprised.
Your claim is that it's okay to do something to a certain people based on their ethnicity, depending on the situation.
If they have, terrorized your country and demolished its economy.
You're using they, like you're taking a certain group of people, a certain demographic, and lumping them all together with the responsibility of economic decline.
It's because there's a thing called a Dunbar's number. You can't actually know closely more than like 150 people. If you just see over and over again that like if you look in today's world, a Jew makes that fucking. His name was Kaplan. He made that movie on Netflix the movie starts out with a pedo scene. You see any kind of degenerate movie just about, you look up the director and they're generally a Jew. I mean, if you read Stephen King's book, It, at the end of It, not many people know this, in the book, the little girl has an orgy with the fucking kids. I mean, Jews aren't the most, Westernly people that there ever are. And when a people realize that this group is consistently, like in the banking, they've inflated our money. They've degeneratized our youth. They're pushing transgenderism. They're pushing open border societies like George Soros. And if you even just look up Jewish role in immigration on YouTube, you'll find a leading Jewish person in some church or something talking about how the Jews have a leading role in the mass migration to Europe, and they're going to be hated and scorned for their leading role. I mean, it's not like this stuff isn't openly available and they don't openly talk about it.
Let me try this a different way. What's something that you would say your race is responsible for in the past and maybe even perpetuating now? Is there anything that you would admit, hey, white people suck at this?
White people sucked. They let virtue guide their deeds, and parasites smelt the feast because they weren't willing. If the founders,
real. I'm not trying to trick you into something here, so there's no need to do that. Like something that you would say, okay, black people have done this through history, Jews have done this through history, Chinese have done that through history. What's something? I'm just trying to get a groundwork so that I can ask you a question about fascism itself based on race. But I want to do it from common ground where I can say, okay, let's use white people for example instead of Jews. So what's something that white people, that you would say, hey, white people actually did do this and they are responsible as a race for it?
For allowing I think it was a mistake. Like, you want me to point out like a mistake we've made or something that's just bad that we've done?
Well, it just seems that you seem fine painting the Jewish people with a brush of saying that they're sneaky or they have infiltrated the banks and they're responsible for transgender people somehow. I don't know. I don't even know how that makes sense, but I don't want to go down that rabbit trail. But I'm just saying, like, you're okay with saying that that's okay for this people, but what would you accept from a place of accountability for white people?
Well, white people are too tolerant. We're the only race of people that's extraordinarily tolerant of other
They're too
cultures.
Nice. That's really. I mean, come on, man.
I mean, what do you want me to like try to lie and say that? Point out like a Native American Holocaust or something like smallpox wasn't what killed the vast majority of Indians, and it wasn't just straight up onslaught.
Would you accept colonialism as something that you could criticize European cultures?
No, colonialism is fine. Every race is not. I mean, it's not unique to white people to go around and conquer other people. It's not unique.
But could we at least say during the time that we characterize historically as colonialism that the European culture...
Well, it's just kind of like trying to like bash them for doing better than everybody else. I mean, they just conquered better than other races. And
is it okay to conquer?
That's just how history played out.
Is that a good thing? Is it a good thing to conquer another group?
It's not a bad thing.
So if you were conquered, you would be... the whole time saying this
would be
is
bad.
Just,
it's
ethical.
Always bad for the losers. Losers, it sucks to be a loser. Have you ever lost to something?
How can it be bad for one person but not bad ethically?
Because life is more about just some kind of religious binding to morals. People have a duty to their people and their nation, and like if their nation wants to expand and that's what they choose to do as a people, then they go out and do it. And that's just how life has been.
So you don't believe in objective morality?
And I want, like, the non-aggression principle is like a good thing to aim for, right? But it's not perfect. It allows for complete degeneracy of your society. It allows for like, well, that tranny over there is banging that kid on the front yard and I can't say anything because he's not aggressing against me. But, you know, like that's the kid. What if the kid consented? You know, well, that fucking dumbass shit that libertarians talk about.
In your moral system, that kid is just getting whatever he gets.
No,
I don't see any correlation between.
It's just, that's kind of like it's trying to. I'm not victim blaming. I'm just saying that throughout history, history is a series of
it's not
conquering
wrong.
and
even
being
though
conquered.
something and your analogy that you're using, which once again, transgender people and pedophilia is not linked in any way.
Well, it was just a ridiculous.
Okay, sure. Yeah,
I wasn't trying to say it was all. I was just giving an analogy to what the non-aggression principle and pure libertarianism allows for. That's all I was giving an example of.
Let's say I get on a bus and someone close to you that can't defend themselves. Can I use your grandmother, for example? I don't know your grandmother, and I'm not trying to. I don't know if she's still with us or whatnot. But I didn't want to say me and your mom are on a bus. That seems weird. But you know what I mean? Like, let's just say
it's fine.
It can be your aunt, whatever. But okay, I get on a bus and your grandmother's on that bus and I usurp authority on her. I go over and I steal her purse. I punch her in the face. I abuse her. She tries to grab for the purse. I kick her down. She breaks her arm. I walk back off the bus. That just happened. Right? I mean,
you'd have a death warrant.
That's fair enough, but that's something that just happened to her. And your worldview, it sounds like, yeah, that's bad for her, but that doesn't necessarily make it wrong because might makes right.
Might does, at the end of the day, make right. If you can't defend whatever your silly ideology is, if you can't defend, you know, wanting your trannies to be able to defend their meth fields with fucking nukes and whatever.
I'm going to ask you to stop saying trannies, if you don't mind. Get all PC here, but I mean, that's not...
What can I use? Just do I just got to say LGBT?
It's not necessary. But regardless of that, if might makes right, then I'm right for kicking the shit out of your grandma.
Well, you're also like kind of trying to equate a macro scale and a micro scale. It's kind of like it's not like two nations clashing. With colonialism, is two nations clashing, not just two individuals.
But it's one nation that's dominant and one that is not. And what you're saying is it's okay when white people do it to other races, but it's not okay when I do it to someone that you care about.
Well, because I have a bond to my people. I even have a bond to you until you do some crazy shit like that to my grandma, right?
Right. So you're basing your ethics on your bonds that you have.
You could say that nationalism, like family first, nation second, race third. Well, race and family are kind of the same thing, so I guess you can't really separate those two.
And you don't see a problem with that. Let's say that the white race wasn't the dominant race.
Well, it's not right now.
Right. So in that sense, whatever is happening to the white race, if you feel like there's white genocide occurring, well, whoever is doing it has every right to do it, and there's no problem with it. It's not morally wrong.
It's an ongoing war. I'm well aware of this. I mean, it's not like it hasn't been lost yet, so
okay.
It's not like it's been proven that
it's not
the dominant one.
It's not wrong for other races to cause white genocide in your world.
Well, like if we go extinct in 100 years, it's no one's fault but our own. I'm not gonna deny that, right? If Jews would have been defeated in World War II and been exterminated, which wouldn't have happened if Germany would have won, because there's different reasons. But
you have no objection to saying me treating your grandmother on the bus that way is wrong. You have no objection to saying it's wrong for the white people to be wiped out. You have no objection for saying that someone sexually abusing a child in your front yard, that it's wrong to do that. But whenever we talk about Germany exterminating Jews or the Holocaust, you say, well, that just is what happened. Or whenever we talk about European domination over the Western world, and you say, well, colonialism is just part of what happened, that's not wrong. You do see that there is a conflict in your judgment here. You have to at least admit that there's a difference.
Well, not really.
Like saying it's okay for white people.
I won't deny that the Germans got conquered by the forces at play there. Like, I'm not.
Was that right?
It's unfortunate, but it happened.
Why is it unfortunate?
Because they were fighting for a better cause than just about any other war you can think of.
But in your worldview, I don't see why that would matter. Might makes right. So whenever the commies kicked the shit out of your Nazi buddies, hey, they had the more power to do it. Just watch out for wintertime, right?
Well, it wasn't just the commies. We all know that.
Well, I mean, primarily.
Sure, they did the largest part, but they weren't. If it wasn't for the Americans at Normandy.
When that happened, Jimmy, might makes right. So Russia was in the right.
Yeah, but that doesn't make them not communists who are stopped from appealing to private property rights when someone comes and conquers them because they're communists. And like the whole thing with the Jews too, they were totally desecrating the private property rights of the Germans, the Weimar Germans. I mean, they literally.
Anybody listening to you right now is going to say that is just a completely immoral philosophy to say that.
Well, but it's because we're in a situation where white people are put into a corner. We're like new studies are showing that we're going to be minorities in our own countries in America by 2031. And democracy is not going to be able to save us. And that's why fascism is at the peak of everyone's mind. And that's, I mean, it is.
How did you go
Even
from...
the left is infatuated with it. People on the right are becoming fascists faster than you can even freaking believe.
How did you go from being a libertarian that says, I can swing my arm as much as I want until it touches your nose to becoming a fascist? What caused this?
Well, the realization that my people face extinction, bro. I mean, come on.
Why can't you say
we are being
people?
Displaced out of existence?
Why can't you say that we're all brothers and sisters and we're all together? Why do you have to draw these racial differences?
Obviously we're not, or the whole thing wouldn't be being perpetuated against us by another tribe.
But you admitted that the reason that the Jews are in banking predominantly is because of socioeconomic systems that were a result of primarily religion at the time of the Dark Ages, and that's just how it happened. Yet you hold them accountable for it in a way. So what I don't understand is if society causes a thing, then why blame the effect of that cause? Why not look at the cause? Why not say society caused this, so therefore society must be the problem?
Because society isn't a thing. Tribes work together. Why is it like you? Why do you want to treat it like a conspiracy that tribes work together?
It's very conspiratorial what you're saying. It would be like saying, why are there so
Did white people during colonial times work together to achieve certain goals?
Of course.
Why are they responsible for the deaths of the Native Americans and the Mayans and whatnot, who all pretty much were almost wiped out as soon as they came onto the scene?
Sure, I have no problem saying that, just like I had no problem saying that, yeah, there's a lot of Jews in the banking industry. And I have no problem.
So
Hold on.
It's not that I
have no
don't
problem even saying that the Anglo-Saxon people are a result of the societal structure that they're in. I don't think that, like, white people are inherently bad because of colonialism. I don't think that white people are inherently bad because of the color of their skin. I have no white guilt. None whatsoever. You know, but the issue is whenever we look at something that's wrong in history or society, we can try to fix it. But if we try to segregate ourselves and then punch down and blame the person based on the color of their skin for what they did, then we're not going to make any progress. We're just going to stay divided. And I think if we're going to talk conspiracy stuff, I'll sound a little conspiratorial and say whiteness isn't a fucking thing, man. It didn't even exist until those in power tried to use our differences against us. The rich want you to focus on skin and not economics. They say that it's the minority's fault that you're poor. Watch out for the immigrants that are going to come and take your job. That's what we're hearing from Trump today. Back in times precursor to the Civil War, they were saying, hey, if these black people get free, then they're going to take your jobs. And we don't realize they already have your jobs. They're just doing it for free. And I think that you're missing that there are socioeconomic reasons that people want you to be racist. You're playing into the system, man. You're being a fool to the system.
I don't think so. You're taking out of consideration the founding of America. Like, America was founded, and the preamble of the Constitution says right there in it that America, the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is for the posterity of the Americans at the time. Posterity is direct descendants.
Yeah,
America
of
has
white
been a white country the whole time, and we have been subverted since, especially like the keynote is 1965, where the immigration policy was changed from white Europeans of good character to the immigration policy we have today, basically.
I don't know that we're going to find a lot of common ground here. I think.
But do you not think it's wrong that a nation be stripped through subversion of their identity? Like, do you not think that's wrong and something that people who are of the identity of the founding
is their identity in the color of their skin? Therefore, they identify with racism.
It's their heritage and their bloodline and their relationship to the soil on which their forefathers carved a nation out of. Why deny people the right to have that kind of a bond to their neighbors and their land
based on the color of their skin?
There's more to it than the color of skin, but just because of the color of their skin, fine.
I wouldn't want to deny someone the ability to be racist. I believe in free speech. That's why we're talking today. I think that somebody listening to this gets to have the white hood removed and see.
Well, no, Israel is the only nation on the planet that has a nation state law saying it's specifically for Jews. It's about the only place where you have to pass a DNA test.
That's wrong.
To get in. That is not wrong. They just passed that the other day.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, and it's a fucked up thing to do. It's
not fucked up. I'll even defend the Jews right here. It's not
religious
fucked up.
state.
They have a right to secure the existence of their own people, just like whites do.
Where do you think rights come from, man? Rights are things that we write down. That's why they're called rights. They're written down. We declare it. If we pass a law in this legislature that says that you should have air conditioning for free, guess what? You get free air conditioning, and now you have a right to have a nice cool day in the summer. It's that simple. The right to freedom of speech is
doing something like that.
I'm using that as a ridiculous example, but that's the same thing as the freedom of speech, the right to vote, the right to have representation correspond with taxation, where you would say that you have a right not to be taxed, perhaps. That would be a right if it's written down. And whenever you're saying you have a right to defend your race, not till we agree on it, Jack. Until then,
no.
Until then,
rights aren't inalienable. I'm not gonna. I disagree with the founding fathers of my country on the fact that rights. I say that rights are inalienable. They're reciprocal.
Well, we would both.
You've got to reciprocate your rights.
Yeah. Okay, so we got common ground there. Rights are not inalienable. We agree. I'm saying that they come from community. They come from society coming together and passing laws that we all follow because it's in our own personal best interest to follow them. I have no problem with that. But whenever you say that you have a right to defend your race, not till I agree with you. And you have to convince me. And I think you're doing a poor job of it because I don't agree that we should divide people based on race.
So should America have open borders?
I don't know what that has to do with anything.
Well, it's a pertinent question because it changes the landscape of American politics.
Ethically and philosophically, we should have open borders because they're just arbitrary lines drawn in the sand. But I think pragmatically, there would be results and consequences that wouldn't be what's best for the nation of America.
Yeah, it would.
I mean, this kind of
if it continues, it's going to destroy what America was. There will not be, when white people become a minority, it won't be Western civilization anymore. That's what people don't understand. And all these things they take for granted, all the capacity and abilities of what white nations have done will slowly fade away. And all the reasons that these people come here will vanish. And me and you, just because of the color of our skin, will be treated with hostility to the greatest degree. Just like, I mean, essentially, just extreme example is South Africa. But that's after the population's been switched completely over to like 90% the other way. But that's an extreme example.
Because we both admit it's inevitable, when white people become the minority in the United States of America.
I don't think it's inevitable, but it's very likely. I'll give you that.
Okay. When that occurs, or when that likely occurs, that's not wrong, according to your worldview. That's just the way the world works.
It's wrong for me because I'm part of the people experiencing
that's subjective morality. You say it's wrong for you, but right for someone else.
It's not. At the end of the day, if history plays on in 200 years from now, they're the victors. Then yeah, they might was right. It happened that way, but it's not over yet, and that's the point. I don't think we're going to lose.
I look at a moral structure that tries to take everybody into consideration. So if we were going to look at the veil of ignorance, for instance, and you and I were going to try to construct a society that was really, really good. We say, all right, what do we want these people to have? Well, let's make one race dominant over another race. And we're like, well, yeah, that's really good for that race.
Well, wait, can I just say how I would do it if I would start from the beginning? Regardless of if there are other races, let's say we have all the separate races we have today, and let's say that this history restarted. The best way to organize society would be on private property rights and avoiding conflict over scarce resources. Because whenever two people want to do different things with the same resources, let's just say this resource is America, and two different people want to do two different things with it, there's going to be a conflict. Do you get what I'm saying?
And the only way to solve it in the way that it is today is through open, upfront race war, and once you have your power over top of the people, implement fascism. Is that what you'd say?
Well, fascism is like the middle step to what you want in the end. I'd like to have private property covenants that are very libertarian-like, just with like people who don't want degeneracy and shit all over their fucking streets and in their news and all that shit.
If we're behind that veil of ignorance and we're trying to decide the best society that we make, right? And in that society, there's going to be race A and race B, all right? We don't know which race we're going to be whenever we go down to Earth, right? We're just standing up there in the clouds of heaven, for example. That's the idea of the veil of ignorance. You're ignorant of who you're going to be. And we're trying to construct a society, and we go down there, you might be A and you might be B. But ethically, and just even from a libertarian point of view, you could look at that and say, since I don't know which one I'm going to be, I'm going to push for equality. I'm not going to push for racism at all. I'm not going to push for a society that requires fascism, as you might characterize how fascism happens as just something that just happens as a necessity. I'm going to avoid separating people in this way whatsoever. So whenever I say, standing behind the veil of ignorance, we wouldn't choose racism. You wouldn't choose it either. You wouldn't choose to be proud of being white. I'm not saying it's not okay to be white. I think that term, implies some other things to it, but it is okay to be white. I can agree with you. It's okay to be black. It's okay to be red, brown, whatever colors we want to attribute to different colors of skin. But the point is that if you are going to be any kind of race, you wouldn't want to say, I'm going to be black whenever black is oppressed, or I'm going to be white if white is dominant. You don't know which one you're going to be, right?
Yeah, but I don't see what this hypothetical has to do with the situation at hand.
The moral root, Because if you're going to follow a moral guideline,
morality, no, like the people who want to conquer you don't give a fuck about morality. Okay,
and there's nothing wrong with saying that we morally have a right to stop someone from conquering us. I'm totally fine with that. But you're drawing these arbitrary lines between skin color. That's just bullshit, man. That's subjectivism. That's racism. That's hate. Where's the love, dude? I mean, I know that sounds kind of naive.
The love is for my people. The love is for my people so much so.
Why not? Why can't your people be the people of Earth? Why do they have to be white?
Because we're not all the same. We don't have the same tendencies and the same desires and values. If Westerners have particular values and other people have other values, it's just the way it is. And when those values are put in close proximity, there is conflict. Especially with democracy.
I'm going to go personal again, okay? I'm not going to, no need to be defensive. I'm not going to say anything disrespectful to your wife. But let's say your wife turned black tomorrow. I don't know how it happened. It's just magic. Would you still love her just the same?
Damn, that's just an out there question.
I know, it's silly, but I'm trying to break down. Okay, first we're talking about hate and racism and division, and I'm trying to talk about love now. Because that's a real fucking thing, man. You love the child that you're bringing into this world. I know you do. You love your wife. And I'm saying, would you allow these arbitrary divisions of skin color to pull you away from love?
If I ignore them, my family in about 100 or 200 years will cease to exist in any kind of resemblance that it exists today. And so I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that it does continue to exist in the way that it has traditionally.
Here's my point. My wife is Hispanic, and I love her whether she were white, brown, black, Chinese. If my wife woke up tomorrow as a man, I'd learn to suck some dick. You hear what I'm saying? Because love conquers everything, man. I'm a
love
straight
will
guy.
not conquer
I'm a straight
the
guy.
immigration crisis in the West, my friend. I'm sorry to break it to you.
What if it could, man? What if we could? What if we had a little more love out
we
there?
cannot love.
I don't think that's naive.
Into being American.
Would you love your wife if she turned black?
I love my wife if she turned black. It's just so out there. Like, I guess no, I wouldn't. If she literally turned black tomorrow, just DNA and everything just flipped, and my baby was going to be black, I'd be pretty disappointed.
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Why can I not want to make? Why can I not want my own babies to look like me?
There's nothing wrong
like
with wanting your baby
Muhammad
to look
Ali
like you.
wanted his babies to look like him, and nobody said anything like that to him. Like, what if your wife turned white tomorrow? How would you feel about that?
You have to admit you felt something right then, Jimmy. I know you did. I heard it in the tone of your voice. You don't like that about yourself. That you just said, if my wife turned black,
come on!
my
don't
baby,
try to
I'm being real, man. No, I'm not trying to psychoanalyze you. I'm just saying that man to man, we're both parents, and you know it's wrong when that came out of your mouth. You felt it. Don't tell me you didn't feel that you kind of stepped on the essence of loving another human being. Whenever you said, if she were black, I wouldn't love her. That's different.
She would not be the same if she was black. She would have a different personality.
Jimmy,
she would have a
wrong,
different.
Man. That's where you're wrong. Just because somebody's a different skin color doesn't mean that they don't deserve love just the same. That's where you're wrong, dude. She wouldn't be any different. She would just look different.
Yes, okay. The way you're talking, though, I should love everyone.
Yes.
I should love everyone just the same. I can't love
I'm not
someone
saying
as much
just
as I
the
love
same.
my wife.
I'm not saying
Can't
just the
love
same.
someone.
No. But you should love everyone. You got it, dude. That's it. And I'm telling you, that's something that's going to, just on a personal level, one father to another, I believe, and this is just my opinion, you can prove me wrong in a couple years, but I believe seeing a child come into the world, and I know you're a father already, she's pregnant, but I'm just saying, whenever you see that child, this is going to change you. And I think that love is going to become more powerful to you than hate. I really believe that, dude.
You see, this is kind of something that I see as a problem with the West. We have fallen into a love cult where we are so desensitized and alienated from each other that we don't have this bond anymore that we will stand up and fight for each other. Like, if you cared about me and my family as much as I cared about yours, theoretically, I mean, I'm a little disappointed that you think the way you do, but like, we should be willing to fight for each other, and we don't have that anymore. We've turned into, we just ought to love the world, even if they're coming in here to conquer our country, right? To change it into something that it's not.
I'm not trying to say hug your oppressor, and I'm not trying to say that I should love your kid as much as I love my kid. That just wouldn't really work with the way evolution worked out. I agree with that 100%. But I
hope you get that I'm not trying to call like the individual migrant that's running over here the oppressor. That's not the oppressor. It's going to be the state in the end who is manipulated by the mass influx of different people with different values who want to do different things with the scarce resources that Americans have had.
That sounds
to
like
themselves.
Fascism.
Huh?
That sounds like fascism.
What the immigrants are doing to America?
The state deciding what's going to happen to you. The state taking complete control over things. Isn't that fascism?
Well, is that not what's been happening? Increasingly so for the last 100 years or more?
But you're a fascist.
I know, but there's wrong ways for a state to operate, and there's right ways. A state shouldn't defend its foreigners over its own people. Like literally, Pelosi just the other day said that a vote for Democrats is leverage for an illegal immigrant. I mean, come on.
Thanks for talking to me today, man. I'm going to hit you up a couple years, and I guarantee you're going to think differently. Last time I spoke to you, we disagreed on a lot of shit you said pissed me off, and this time, well, you went full throttle. I think you're going to change your mind pretty soon. I really do.
Well, let me just kind of lay a generalized thing, like
you can
my hope for the future. I want my people, Westerners, to galvanize each other and organize in defense of their own people and take back their nations and do it in the most peaceful way possible. And if it can't be done that way, then to raise fascist flags and do what must be done. And if that hurts your feelings, I'm sorry, but there is nothing in the world more valuable than Western civilization, especially to Westerners. And I don't see how anyone can even try to lie to themselves and say that if they back these white people into this corner and knock them down to 30% of the population, that they're not going to rise up and do some crazy shit, because that's what white people do. And I'm just kind of like trying to get out there to people, don't poke the bear so much. But as you know, through history, and we've talked about it throughout this show, that white people can do some crazy things, especially when cornered. And I don't think we should push ourselves into a corner to where we have to do something ridiculous.
Jimmy, congratulations on your son coming into this world here pretty soon. I hope you change your mind, and I hope you don't indoctrinate him with these kinds of ideas. Honestly, I don't think you will, Jimmy. I don't think you will. But have a good rest of the day, man, and I appreciate you contributing your ideas. All
right, brother. I hope I didn't make you feel too bad. You sound pretty down right now.
No, I'm all right. We'll close it there, I guess. But it makes me sad that people think that way. It's a destructive way of thinking, and just between you and me, I think that's how evil happens. I don't think there's like good people and bad people in the world, but I think there are destructive ideas, and I think good people get really dangerous ideas, and I think that fascism and racism and that the kind of stuff that you have been radicalized into, man, because you weren't always like this. Maybe you had some hint of it before, but you weren't like this a year ago. It saddens me to see that, because it's not so different from like if I was talking to somebody and they were a little Muslim and then they become like Al-Qaeda. I'm watching the decline of a fellow human being into very violent ways of thinking. And I don't want to say it breaks my heart. It honestly, it makes me angry. It makes me feel anger, but I recognize there's no use in yelling at you. Like, I'm not, like, what good does that do?
Well, I mean, I know it makes you, the way you feel, I understand it, but it's just like one of those things when you realize that there's like the form of government that we have today is not going to save us, that whatever it must be that we need to do to save ourselves is what must be done. And if that is fascism, then that's fine by me. But I'm hopeful that we can do it another way. I hope we can get that in there. But I really do hope we can do it another way. It's just like I'm saying that needs to be something on the table for my people, though.
When I said that about having a kid, I wasn't just doing fucking radio talk. Like, I really believe that, man. I think it's when I had my first kid, it changed me. I had a lot of just angry feels. I was very narcissistic, and I'm not saying that you're a narcissist or anything. I'm just describing myself. I was very self-absorbed in a way. I had a lot of a lot of hang-ups, and I still do today. I mean, who are we kidding, right? But it changed me, and I know it sounds silly, man. I get that it sounds like a fucking shitty country song, tear in my beer bullshit, but love came into my heart, dude, and in a way that it had not happened before. I hope that for you, because it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I really just wish I could get you to understand, though, that it's like a degree of love for my family and my people that is so great that I am willing to go to great lengths to defend them and what we are.
White.
Well, that's how it turns out to be.
And that shit don't matter, dude. That shit doesn't matter. This whole white, black, brown, pink, yellow thing, it don't mean shit, man. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. There's a lot of things that you could be investing in that actually have real value. You know, we get 100 years, dude. We get 100 years if we're lucky. What's the point of wasting that on just different tones of skin? I mean, we're all the same people, dude. We really are the same, man.
Well, just as a radical example, okay? A radical example, not one that I'm pitching as a solution to anything, but if you deported every African-American, violent crime would drop drastically. Okay,
why do you think
there are things that can be done that can change this just straight up according to race.
Let's say that's true. Why would that be the case?
Why would it be the case that
why would crime drop if we took black people out? Do you think that black people are inherently criminal?
No, I think it's more of like back to evolution. They have higher testosterone and lower IQs on average than Europeans. And the high testosterone and the low IQ creates a vacuum of where they lash out. And it's just the way that they are. It's not like bad, it's just who they are.
That's fucked up. That's just a fucked up way of looking at the world, dude.
Well, I hope you have a great night.
Love's what I got. Don't start a riot. You feel it when the dance gets hot.
You heard a lot today. If there's anything to take away from this, it's that the growing threat is real. We can't stop fighting for liberalism, for equality, for equal rights, egalitarianism, inclusion, unity. Love isn't weakness. It's a decision. It's stubborn. It's fearless. It's courage. It gives us the ability to keep going, to saddle up. It's staring back at the abyss and laughing because you're not afraid of the dark. Don't give up on each other. Don't even give up on this guy you heard today. Don't give up on me. Don't give up on yourself. I love you. And you have the right to reason.
Let the loving come back to
me. I love you, and you have the right to reason.
I love you, and you have the right to reason.
We love you, and you have the right to reason.
I love you, and you have the right to reason.
I love you, and you have the right to reason.
I love you, and you have the right to reason.
I love you, and you have the right to reason.
Love is what I got.